JAG University, episode 13. Kevin, our industry, what we do, insurance in general, is 100% reactive, right? Things happen, then the needle starts moving, we all react, whether it's pricing, underwriting guidelines, right? The market, subject to market conditions. But loss control is the only thing that us as agents and insureds can help do to be proactive. And I mean proactive by actually trying to mitigate or maybe stop potential claims.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a lot because it can mitigate, it can stop them, it can make them less severe. It can make your account easier for us to sell and get you into better, other programs. It's really, the benefits are everywhere in having good loss control. And then ultimately too, you're going to end up running a better operation.
I mean, sometimes, I like looking at the approach when we get involved in accounts is even as a business owner, because you're there every day, it's like when you're in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
You just see things the same. You don't really identify potential landmines, right? When you bring kind of a third eye or someone looking from an aerial type of view, some of the small stuff actually stands out. And I think loss control seems to be, I don't know if it's a very evasive type concept, right? Or people don't know where to start. I mean, look, it's part of the risk management program. Now, not everybody has a risk management team. I mean, we do here. So we'll put a feather in a cap. And our team, I'll put them up against anybody. But part of what risk management does is doing the loss control, right? Being proactive. And this, to the second part, a lot of insurance carriers actually provide those services. And many people aren't taking advantage of. I mean, mention a few situations. I mean, we talk about, was it EPLI, employer practice liability, right? If you buy that type of policy in the fine print, most of the carriers now in that space are providing an HR hotline. Some resource that you could use if maybe you're a little overwhelmed as a business owner.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people are kind of scared away from actually focusing on loss control because it sounds expensive, it sounds really involved. And like any business practice, you don't go from having nothing as far as loss control to being the loss control king of Miami in one day. It's a process. Over time, you start to get acclimated, you learn, you shore up something over here, you tighten up something over there. And, it's a process, but eventually you end up with a very well managed organization from a risk management standpoint, from a loss control standpoint. And you mentioned there, these carrier resources are great starting points. Okay, I don't have time to bring in a labor and employment practices attorney to assess my hiring practices and identify what I can do to reduce my EPLI exposure. Okay, well, you can just go on your EPLI carrier's website, log in, and they probably have a lot of good stuff.
Ton of resources you can download. Right, it's a starting point.
Exactly, and you could do that for now, and it's going to at least help, and it'll get you acclimated, and year over year, you'll get better at it. I think a huge one too is cyber. A majority of these cyber carriers have a ton of online resources that they just give you access to. You already paid for it. And you go on and you can take surveys that assess the weak points in your business from a cyber perspective.
Yeah.
So you go in, you put all your company's information, and they say, hey, look, we think you need to focus more on training your employees. And they'll have resources that you can give to your employees to train and test them to make sure they can recognize a phishing threat, or they know what to click and what not to click, or when they're setting up their home network, what they can and can't be doing. Maybe you need a VPN, maybe not. It's resources that are already there and available to you. I know workers' comp carriers are the same way. They have a ton of stuff they can give you. So right off the bat, EPLI, for your employment practices, just HR stuff, they give you resources. Cyber, they give you resources so you can perform your own internal loss control without hiring a third-party firm. Workers' comp, a lot of workers' comp carriers are going to help you develop safety plans or drug plans if you need them.
No, they have it. All you got to do is ask.
Yeah, and they'll love to give it to you.
And I think it starts with, you mentioned now, little by little, but it's a mindset. It's a mindset shift, right? Loss control is a mindset, little by little. But it also, the mindset continues to evolve to be more in a defensive position. So many times we sell insurance and, or we buy insurance and worry it's going to be covered. But that defensive mindset of trying to be proactive and help avoid claims is going to help protect your insurance program.
Yeah.
As we're going through a situation now where the market is hardening in basically everything, maybe other than workers' comp. And which we'll talk about in another episode. But when a hard market exists, right? All the stuff, all the little things you do throughout the years and playing defense helps you become insulated when a lot of insurance companies want to get out of a certain market. You basically stand out right? You're out there. You're easier to be insured and protect the premium cost from spiking at a 30 or 40% clip.
Yeah, if you had to pay someone's claims out of pocket, and you have two options. You have one person who implements all these safety programs and guidelines and loss control, and the other is not doing anything. They don't even care. They just want it cheaper. Who are you going to pick?
So it comes down to capacity too.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like,
I only have
A or
X
B.
dollars to give.
Who am I going to give it to?
I'm going to give it to whoever I'm less likely to pay a claim for.
Right.
And those are the people with the best loss control. People do loss control all the time. People do it at their houses. They get impact glass. They buy alarm systems. That's loss control.
They have firearms. They get a dog. I mean, there's a lot of things that help mitigate things from happening to them.
Yeah,
The same thing goes with the business as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just recognizing that loss control, don't think of it as a policy specific thing, a property thing, a liability. It's for everything. It exists everywhere. Sometimes it goes in conjunction with your insurance. Sometimes it doesn't. We talk about it in our risk tolerance episode, how you have to identify what you're insuring and not insuring because there's still risk everywhere. And your risk management plan has to encompass all of it. It can't just be your insurance related problems. It has to be all the risks that you face as a business owner because your risk tolerance is going to be the same whether or not it's off something that's covered by insurance or not.
Right.
That's still the amount of money that's going to knock you out of business or take you out of the ball game. So ultimately, loss control, it's don't leave money on the table when it comes to what you already have access to from your insurance companies. If I'm spending a bunch of money on workers' comp and they're giving me free access to safety guidelines and all this stuff I can implement, that one, they might even give you credit for it. And it's going to bring down your claims expenses. It's going to give you more options at renewal. It's going to pay dividends over time the earlier you implement it, but it's already there. It's free. On the cyber side, the workers' comp side, EPLI side.
It's there. Going back to the mindset shift, without doing loss control, most of the information insureds get from insurance companies are recommendations, right? Recs, which aren't recommendations. They're actually required to change, right?
Yeah.
So much of it is like, the more I tell insurance companies, is it going to affect me? There's this whole conception that insurance, I don't want to show too much. But the truth is you got to find the right partner, find the right agent, the right carrier. And, as much as it does help when you find that kind of package, right? Working with an agent who's going to help get the information and help you kind of walk through it. And then find a carrier, working together is going to help you set yourself up for long-term success.
Yeah. I mean, that mindset is something that's just working less and less nowadays too. The keep as much in the dark as possible. Because nowadays, you mentioned that there's so much limited capacity and carriers can now be a lot more picky on who they choose to insure. They're always going to pick the company that's wide open, that lets them walk right into their operation, understand everything going on, that has all these measures in place. That's the safe bet for them.
Right.
And that's what they're going to take every time.
Right.
And it does take time for you to become that type of client, that type of company, because you have to implement this stuff little by little. So it's the sooner you do it, the better off you're going to be in a couple years. The better off you'll be right now, but it's only going to compound. It's like a retirement plan.
Sure.
That it pays dividends over time. Over all these years in the future, once you build that culture of loss control and managing your risk, you're going to have less claims and less severe claims year over year for the rest of the life of your business. That is going to make you an attractive account for the better insurance companies you're going to gain access to. You're going to get better pricing. In the long run, it's going to be a huge investment that's going to pay dividends forever. It's just taking a little bit of the time to just start implementing it. And you can ask your agent for guidance on how to do it. And as we already mentioned 3-4 times this entire interview, you already have access to free loss control on some of your policies, most likely.
Take advantage of it. It starts with a mindset shift of being proactive.
Yep.
It's time to play defense.